This is my current CD player, and while it's okay, the sound quality is terrible and it keeps scratching up my CDs. So I bought this Sony Boombox, but it's broken. Of course, this being a boombox, we can power it two ways, with batteries or with AC. And with the AC plugged in, you can see it goes to standby mode. So to turn it on, all we need to do is press this button, but we just get a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And no matter what we press, it will not come on. And now we've taken the power out and we've got just the batteries on. You can see we don't even get to enter standby mode, but we get the same symptoms. But this CD player has one thing that this one doesn't: Bluetooth. So we need to try and give this Bluetooth as well. So given what we've seen, I'm expecting this to be a capacitance issue. I might be wrong, but let's find out. This boombox is relatively new. It was released in 2010. I had no idea they were still making them this late on. I really like the aesthetic, which is why I bought it, and it only cost me about £8 shipped. I tend to collect my favourite CDs physically, but of course I still love the streaming services, which is why I need to come up with my own solution to give this Bluetooth connectivity. So we've got this motherboard out and I'm looking at these capacitors and there's nothing obviously wrong with them, no visual signs. So we're just going to start replacing them. I'm going to start in this area here because this is where most of them are. And once we've replaced them, we can test them in the component tester to prove the fault. When it comes to removing electrolytic capacitors, I like to heat the legs from underneath and rock the capacitor back and forth until it is removed. Then it's a simple case of clearing the wires of solder. I like to use a solder sucker. Now I can replace the capacitors, remembering that unlike ceramic SMD capacitors, these are pole sensitive. So I've changed about 90% of the capacitors on this board now. Probably didn't need to do them all. After doing some research online, there's these three, which I've highlighted in black, which are usually problematic. And on the back here, we have three different capacitors where the pads were broken away from the wires. So I've also restored those. But interestingly, all of these tested good, and it's just these two that have tested bad. So this first one is testing as a resistor and it has no capacitance left. And it's a 10 volt 220 microfarad. Interestingly, this other one is also a 10 volt 220 microfarad. And this other one is testing as capacitor, but the capacitance is more than 10% of the value. When it comes to modding or upgrading, I generally try and stick to two rules. Firstly, I must not remove any original functionality, and secondly, I must not change the overall aesthetic of the device. With that in mind, I've chosen this Bluetooth module that I found on Amazon. The problem is it will always be powered on even if I'm just listening to CDs, which means my phone will automatically connect to it and I won't hear any of my notifications. So I've also decided to add this simple rocker switch which has a blue LED on it. This switch is quite cumbersome and this is the only place I could find that it will fit. We're going to have to make some modifications to the case. This area seems like a good spot for the Bluetooth module, and now seems like a good time to say that this is new territory for me. I haven't had to dig through schematics before to find appropriate voltages and audio channels, so I'm really skeptical whether this will work or not, especially with the switch. I want to solder the left and right audio here because this is the connector for the aux socket. In theory, meaning I should be able to use the audio in button to switch to the Bluetooth channel. For the ground, I use this pad near C305, which isn't shown on the schematic. I am using 16 gauge wire because that's all I have in at the moment. Definitely too thick, but won't do any harm. The positive wire in the background I actually moved to jumper wire 125 because it provides 6.2 volts, which is slightly higher than where I have it currently. The Bluetooth module supports any voltages between 5 volts and 35 volts. So I think the way that this switch works is this brassy coloured one on the left is the ground, this middle one is the positive, and the right hand one is the load. So we need to solder on our ground, also our ground from the Bluetooth module. You solder on our positive wire, and we need to solder on the load. And you can see I've written load on it just so I don't get the two red ones mixed up. This is definitely not my finest soldering, and I actually melted the back of the switch with the soldering iron. Hopefully it will be okay. Once I've tested everything and I know it's all working, I'll add the heat shrink to negate any possible shorting. So here she is in all of her glory, and I'm actually really nervous about this because there was no guide or anything that I've used to do this. Everything I've done I've basically just come up with myself, so I don't even know if it's going to work or if it's going to blow up. But there's only one way to find out, and we've got the mains plugged in, and it does still say standby, which is good, because that means we haven't made it any worse. 3, 2, 1. Come on! It says CD. It says CD. Okay, well, I guess we better put CD in. Let's hope the laser in this machine is working. It says track 20, and then it's gone to the table of contents, which is 77 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, before I press play, I'm going to have to cut the music off if it does start working because of copyright. Come on! Come on! I'll just stop that. Oh my god, so excited. Okay, and the last thing we need to check is the switch at the back and the Bluetooth to see if it's all working. And this is the part that I'm clearly most nervous for. Also, don't watch this video. So here's our switch, and I think it actually looks really nice. I think it fits the aesthetic really well. So when I switch this over, it should turn to a blue LED, and that should tell us that the Bluetooth is now on. I'm actually really scared. I think it's going to go kaboom. Do it! I think it's good. I've got blue light. Nothing else is happening. Okay, I think it's good. So I wired this up to the aux port, so if we press audio in, it should switch to the Bluetooth channel. Okay, nothing, that's good. Let's get a Bluetooth device and test it. I don't even know what this should be called, to be honest. Come on, find something. Oh, that's got to be it, hasn't it? Did you hear that? I heard someone go boom, bada boom. So we're going to try and test this with some JFix, so hopefully it works. Tool talk.
Fancy new
Working.
user arriving today with Prime. That's off your mind? So now you can...
See that? It's working. JFix.
Welcome to JFix and a new video. I've got lots of new things arrived from AliExpress, so I'm going to take you over to my bench.
So I've fully tested this now and I've tried it off my phone with proper music and the sound quality is great. Far superior to this thing anyway. And everything still works just off the battery power, which is great. I'd love to know your thoughts on this one and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos.